Amara walked slowly along the riverbank, enjoying the morning sun. The air was fresh and the sound of the flowing water calmed her. She liked these walks because it gave her time to think and feel peaceful. The village was quiet and most people were still in their homes preparing for the day. Amara carried a small basket of fruits and herbs she had planned to sell at the market later. She moved along the narrow dirt path beside the river, humming softly to herself. Suddenly, something on the ground caught her eye. At first, she thought it was a pile of cloth left behind, but as she got closer, she realized it was a person. A young man lay on the ground, motionless, his clothes dusty and his face pale. Amara's heart skipped a beat. She hurried toward him, kneeling by his side. "Hello? Can you hear me?" she asked softly, hoping he was still alive. There was no movement at first, only the sound of the river and the morning breeze. She noticed that his chest was rising and falling faintly. Relief mixed with worry filled her heart. He was alive but very weak. She opened her small water bottle from her basket and lifted it toward his lips. He coughed slightly but managed to swallow a few drops. Amara let out a small sigh. She knew she had to get help, but she could not move him alone. She looked toward the fields nearby where a couple of workers were clearing grass. "Help, please. Someone help me," she called out. The workers noticed her waving and came quickly. "What's the matter?" one of them asked. Amara pointed at the young man. "He is very weak. I found him here. We need to move him to the shade." Together, Amara and the workers lifted him carefully and placed him under a large tree, where the sunlight was softer. She sat beside him, wiping the sweat from his forehead with the edge of her scarf. "You are safe now," she said gently. "Don't worry, you will be fine." The young man's eyelids fluttered. He opened his eyes slowly, confusion written across his face. "Where am I?" he whispered, his voice weak and rough. "You are by the river," Amara replied softly. "You fainted and we brought you here to rest." She noticed his body trembled slightly, and his hands clutched at the grass. The workers handed him a cup of water. With Amara's help, he drank slowly, his color returning a little to his face. "My name is Juma," he finally said. I don't know what happened." "You are safe now, Juma," Amara said, smiling softly. "I'm Amara. You were very weak when I found you." He looked at her, his eyes full of gratitude. "You saved me," he whispered. "I don't know how to thank you." Amara shook her head. "You don't need to thank me. Anyone would have helped." Juma managed a faint smile but shook his head. "Not everyone stops," he said. "You did. You helped a stranger without hesitation." Amara's heart warmed at his words. She knew helping someone was the right thing to do, but hearing his appreciation made her feel a little lighter. She stayed with him, talking softly, keeping him calm while the workers went to fetch some extra water and cloths to help him rest comfortably. As the minutes passed, Juma's eyes became clearer and his voice stronger. "I don't even know your name," he said, looking at her kindly. "I'm Amara," she replied. "And you are safe now. Just rest." He nodded, taking slow breaths. "I will, thanks to you." Amara watched him, noticing the small movements he made to adjust himself on the grass. She wondered why he was here alone by the river in such a weak state. Was he traveling? Did he get lost? Did he not have enough food or water? She didn't know, but she felt responsible for him now. Her small act of care had become important for his survival. The workers returned, carrying some fresh water and cloth. They helped Juma sit up slightly, making sure he did not feel dizzy. Amara offered more water and he drank slowly. "You've been very kind to me," Juma said again. His voice had grown steadier. I do not know how to repay you." Amara shook her head. "You don't need to think about repayment. Just focus on feeling better." Juma smiled faintly. "Even so, your kindness is rare. I will not forget this." She felt a small warmth spread in her chest. It was not the first time she had helped someone, but seeing someone so grateful and relieved made her feel that what she did truly mattered. She realized that a small gesture, water, shade, a little attention, could make a big difference in someone's life. The sun rose higher and the morning air became warmer. Amara stayed beside him, talking softly to keep him calm. She asked questions about his journey, though Juma could only answer a little at first. He explained that he had been traveling from a neighboring village and had walked for many hours without food or water. He felt weak and had collapsed near the river. Amara listened carefully, nodding. "You should rest more. Walking without water is dangerous. You are lucky I found you in time." Juma looked at her, his eyes full of sincere gratitude. "I am very lucky, because of you," he said. Amara smiled softly. "I'm glad you are safe now. That is what matters. For a while they sat quietly. Juma closed his eyes, feeling the cool shade and listening to the gentle sound of the river. Amara remained beside him, her hand resting lightly on the grass near him, ready to help if he needed anything. She watched the water flow, feeling calm and satisfied that she had acted without hesitation. After some time, Juma opened his eyes again. Amara, I will not forget your help, he said softly. You saved my life today. I feel deeply grateful. You don't need to say anything else, Amara said with a small smile. Rest now. That is enough. Juma nodded and lay back slightly, feeling safe. Amara stayed for a few more minutes to make sure he was comfortable, then watched as the workers quietly went back to their work in the fields. The village around them returned to its normal rhythm, but Amara stayed close, feeling a gentle pride in the small role she had played. The river flowed calmly beside them, the morning sun warming their surroundings. Amara felt a sense of peace knowing that she had been in the right place at the right time. She did not know what would happen next or if she would see Juma again, but she knew that her small act of kindness had mattered. For now, she simply stayed by his side, letting him rest and listening to the soft sounds of the village waking around them. She knew that sometimes, life required small, careful choices, and that today her choice had saved a life. Amara opened her small shop early the next morning, just as the sun rose over the village. The light was soft and golden, spilling across the clay walls of her little building. She liked the quiet of the mornings when she could arrange her baskets, dust the shelves, and greet the few villagers who stopped by for fresh fruits, herbs, or handmade mats. Today, though, her mind was not entirely on her work. She kept thinking about the young man she had helped by the river, Juma. She had not expected to see him again so soon. The memory of his weak, pale face stayed with her. She remembered the way his eyes had opened slowly, confusion and gratitude mixing together as he realized she had saved him. Amara smiled softly to herself, hoping he was feeling better. As she stacked a row of clay pots on the highest shelf, she heard a quiet knock at the door. She turned and saw him standing there, Juma. He looked stronger than the day before. His face had color again, and he carried himself with a calm dignity. He did not smile broadly, but his eyes held a quiet warmth. Good morning, Amara said politely, trying to hide her surprise. I wasn't expecting to see you so soon. Juma stepped inside, looking around the small shop with careful eyes. Good morning, he replied softly. I wanted to see you. I wanted to thank you. Amara tilted her head. Thank me? You are welcome, but there is no need. I was just glad you were safe. Juma shook his head. It is not enough to say thank you. I want to do something special. For you. His voice was quiet, but each word carried weight. Amara felt a small flutter of curiosity. She had helped him because it was the right thing to do, not because she expected anything in return. She was careful, polite, and thoughtful. But now Juma was insisting on showing his gratitude in a way she could not yet understand. What kind of special thing? She asked gently, trying to sound casual. Juma looked down for a moment, then back at her. I cannot tell you yet. It will be a surprise. But, could you meet me tomorrow evening? In the town square. Amara paused. The town square was a place where people often gathered for festivals, markets, and small events. It was large and open, and she knew many villagers would be around. Something told her this was important to him, but she did not know what to expect. She nodded politely. All right, I will come. But, I must ask, why the square? Why not here? He gave a small, thoughtful smile. It is better there. You will see. Amara raised an eyebrow but chose not to press further. She did not know why he was being so secretive, but she felt a gentle trust in him. Very well, she said quietly. I will come tomorrow evening. Juma's expression softened. Thank you, he said simply. They stood in silence for a moment. Amara noticed how calm he seemed, yet there was something determined in his eyes, something that made her feel this was more than a casual gesture. She wondered what he could be planning. Would it be something small? Something thoughtful? Something that involved the village? She could not guess, and that made her heart beat faster with anticipation. Juma turned to leave, but before he walked out he said again, I have much to prepare. You will see tomorrow. Please trust me. Amara nodded. I will. He stepped outside and she watched him walk down the street. His steps were steady, confident, and yet careful. She could see that he was not just resting. He was planning something, working quietly to make it happen. The way he moved reminded her of the careful way she had prepared baskets in her shop, each piece placed with intention. Amara returned to her work, arranging herbs and fruits on the shelves. But every few minutes, her mind drifted back to Juma. She wondered what he was doing to prepare for the evening. She tried to focus on her tasks, dusting the shelves and rearranging the clay pots, but curiosity kept creeping back. Throughout the morning, small questions filled her mind. Had he asked others in the village for help? Was it something small like a gift or something larger? She smiled at herself for feeling nervous about a simple act of gratitude. It was unusual to feel anticipation for someone to thank you, but Juma's quiet seriousness made it different. By midday, a few villagers stopped by her shop. They smiled at Amara and whispered to each other as they looked at her. One woman carried a bundle of cloth, another a small bag of paintbrushes. Amara noticed that they seemed unusually busy, and she wondered if it had something to do with Juma. "Are you helping Juma?" she asked one of the women softly. The woman smiled and nodded slightly. "Yes, but it's a surprise. You will see tomorrow." Amara's curiosity grew even more. Everyone seemed to be involved, and yet no one would give her a clue. She felt a mix of excitement and impatience. The thought that Juma had quietly planned something with the villagers filled her with anticipation. As the afternoon moved forward, she continued working but could not concentrate fully. Every sound on the street, the clatter of carts, the laughter of children, the faint hammering in the distance, made her heart beat faster. Something was happening and she would soon be part of it. By late afternoon, the sun began to lower in the sky. The shadows grew longer, and the village started to quiet as people returned home from their work. Amara closed her shop for a short break, leaning against the wooden doorframe. She thought about Juma again, the way he had looked so weak yesterday, and how determined he seemed now to show his gratitude. She remembered his words, "I cannot tell you yet. It will be a surprise." Those words echoed in her mind. What kind of surprise could it be? Something small, something simple, or something more meaningful than she could imagine? She could not guess. The mystery made her pulse quicken, but it also brought a gentle warmth, a sense of being appreciated and valued. Amara decided to prepare for tomorrow evening. She made sure her shop was in order and thought about what she might wear. It was not important, but she wanted to look presentable. She also thought about how she might respond if the surprise was larger than she expected. She hoped to remain calm and thankful, no matter what Juma had planned. The evening approached and the sky turned shades of orange and pink. Amara could hear the sounds of the village quieting as people finished their daily work. She felt a mix of nervousness and excitement, wondering how Juma had involved the villagers in his surprise. She thought about how a simple act of kindness, helping him by the river, had led to this moment. Amara felt a gentle sense of anticipation. She did not know exactly what tomorrow would bring, but she felt certain it would be meaningful. She thought about the kindness that had started everything and how a small choice, to help someone in need, could ripple into something larger than she could imagine. She locked her shop carefully and walked slowly toward her home, thinking about Juma and the mysterious plans for the evening. She reminded herself to be patient, to arrive on time, and to open her heart to whatever awaited her in the town square. She smiled softly at the thought that one simple act could inspire such care and effort from another person. As the night approached, Amara prepared for rest but could not fully sleep. She replayed the events of the river in her mind, the pale face, the eyes opening slowly, and the whispered thanks. Amara woke early the next morning, her mind filled with thoughts of Juma and the mysterious surprise he had promised. The sun rose slowly over the village, painting the sky in soft orange and gold. Birds sang quietly from the trees near the river, and the smell of fresh earth and morning dew filled the air. Amara carried a small basket as she stepped out of her home, ready to open her shop for the day. But her mind wandered constantly to the thought of Juma and what he might have planned for her in the town square. As she walked through the narrow dirt path that led to her shop, she noticed movement in the village she had not seen before. Villagers hurried past her carrying long pieces of wood, bundles of clay, and small pots of paint. Children ran by with brushes and small buckets, their faces filled with excitement. Amara stopped and looked around, wondering what all this activity meant. She had not seen this much movement on a normal morning. She approached one of the women who carried a bundle of cloth and clay. "Good morning," Amara said politely. "Can you tell me what is happening? Why is everyone carrying these things?" The woman smiled warmly, her eyes shining. "Good morning, Amara. You will see soon. Juma has been working hard. He has asked for everyone's help, but it is a surprise." Amara's curiosity grew even more. She tilted her head. "A surprise? But what kind of surprise? Can you give me a hint?" The woman shook her head gently. "No hints. You must wait until tomorrow evening. You will understand then." She smiled and walked away, joining a group of villagers who carried more supplies toward the town square. Amara continued to her shop, but she could not focus on her work. She arranged baskets of fruit, dusted the shelves and checked the clay pots on display, but her eyes kept wandering to the street. Every few minutes she would notice someone carrying something: long sticks, bundles of paint, pieces of clay. All of them seemed to be heading in the same direction, the town square. She wondered what Juma could be doing that required so much help from the villagers. Was it something small like a gift or something larger? She could not guess, and the secrecy made her heart beat faster. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Something important was happening and she was not yet allowed to see it. During the morning she spoke to several villagers who passed by her shop. Each time she asked about the preparations, they would smile mysteriously and repeat, "You will see soon." Amara felt a little frustrated but mostly intrigued. The way everyone seemed to be involved made her feel that Juma's surprise would be meaningful, perhaps even more than she could imagine. Around midday, a group of children ran past the shop carrying small brushes and pots of paint. They laughed and whispered to each other as they ran, glancing over their shoulders to make sure Amara did not see exactly what they were carrying. One of the children, a little boy named Leko, stopped for a moment and looked at her. "Are you helping Juma too?" Amara asked him gently. Leko grinned and shook his head. "I can't say. It's a secret. You will see tomorrow." He ran off quickly, giggling. Amara sighed softly. She smiled at the child's excitement. Everyone in the village seemed to feel the importance of this surprise. Juma had somehow inspired the entire community to work together. Even though she could not see it yet, she felt the energy and care that went into the preparations. Throughout the afternoon, Amara kept noticing small details. A man carried a carefully stacked pile of wood, adjusting it so that nothing would fall. A woman balanced a large clay pot on her head, moving slowly to keep it steady. A young girl brought a bundle of brightly colored paint, her hands covered slightly in powder. Everyone was moving with purpose, working quietly but with focus. Amara felt her curiosity grow stronger with every passing moment. What could Juma be making? How had he involved everyone in the village? The thought of a secret project built with care for her made her heart fill with warmth. She thought about the simple act that had started it all, her stopping by the river to help a stranger in need. It amazed her to realize how one small choice could grow into something much larger than she had imagined. She tried to focus on her shop work, but it was difficult. Every sound in the street, the clatter of a cart, the laughter of children, the distant hammering, reminded her that something was being prepared. Even the air seemed different that day, filled with the quiet energy of anticipation. By late afternoon, Amara could see the shadows growing longer across the village. The sun hung low in the sky, turning the roofs of houses a soft gold. She decided to close her shop for a short break and walk toward her small courtyard. She wanted to watch the street quietly, to catch even the smallest glimpse of what might be happening. She noticed more villagers arriving at the town square, each carrying supplies. Some carried paintbrushes and clay, others brought wooden planks and small tools. Everyone moved with care, placing each item carefully on the ground. Amara felt a sense of awe. She had never seen the villagers so focused and coordinated. Something very special was being built and she had no idea what it would be. A woman stopped near her and whispered, "You will see tomorrow. Juma has worked very hard. He has not rested for 2 days. He wanted everything to be ready for you." Amara felt a gentle warmth in her chest. She could not imagine what the surprise would be, but knowing that Juma had worked so tirelessly, and had involved the villagers, made her feel honored and cared for. She realized that this was not only about her, but about the kindness and unity of the whole community. She stayed there for a while watching the villagers work quietly. Some children carried small stones, arranging them carefully. Some adults measured wooden planks, checking angles and balance. Some painted small decorations on boards, moving slowly to ensure everything was perfect. Amara felt a mixture of excitement, curiosity, and admiration. As the sun began to lower, the village seemed to glow with the soft light of late afternoon. The town square, though she could not see the full project, looked busy and alive. She knew that something beautiful, thoughtful, and meaningful was being prepared for her. The anticipation made her heart beat faster, and she felt a mix of nervousness and joy. Finally, as the evening approached, Amara returned to her shop to prepare for the next day. She arranged her baskets carefully, thinking about what she would wear and how she might respond to whatever surprise awaited her. She felt a gentle sense of pride and happiness. One small act of kindness, the help she had given Juma, had inspired a secret project and she could not wait to see the results. As night fell, the village quieted, but Amara lay awake in her home, thinking about the day's events. She replayed the movements of the villagers, the whispers of, "You will see soon," and the determination in Juma's eyes. She imagined what could have been built with so much care and effort. The mystery made her heart flutter and she felt a deep sense of curiosity and wonder. She thought about how one small act of care could grow into something so meaningful. She realized that kindness could ripple through the world in ways she had never imagined. And as she drifted toward sleep, she whispered softly to herself, "Tomorrow, I will finally see what he has prepared." The sun began to lower in the sky, casting a soft orange glow over the village. Amara felt a flutter of nervous excitement as she made her way to the town square. Her heart beat quickly, and she kept thinking about what Juma had said the day before. "You will see soon," he had told her. She didn't know what to expect, but the mystery filled her with both curiosity and a little nervousness. As she entered the square, she noticed the villagers gathered in a wide circle. Children sat cross-legged on the ground, whispering and pointing, while women and men stood behind them, their faces bright with smiles. Everyone seemed to be waiting for something important. Amara's eyes scanned the crowd, and then she saw Juma standing in the middle. His posture was calm, confident, and there was a small smile on his face as he looked at her. "Amara," Juma called softly but clearly, "please come closer." She stepped forward slowly, her eyes fixed on him. He held a large cloth in his hands, hiding something behind it. Amara's curiosity grew with every step. Her breath quickened as she wondered what could be under the cloth. It looked heavy and carefully wrapped. The villagers grew quiet, the square now filled only with the soft rustle of the wind through the trees and the faint sound of children shuffling. Juma's eyes met Amara's, and she felt a gentle warmth in his gaze. "This is for you," he said softly. Amara blinked, unsure what to say. She had not expected anything like this. She only remembered helping him by the river, the simple act of giving water, calling for help, and bringing him to the shade. That small moment had seemed ordinary to her, yet here he was, standing in front of her with something mysterious and special. Juma slowly pulled the edge of the cloth down, letting it fall to the ground. Amara gasped softly as her eyes took in what was revealed. In front of her stood a beautiful handmade bench, carved carefully from strong, smooth wood. The legs were rounded and sturdy, and the backrest curved gently, with small carved patterns of flowing leaves and vines. The bench looked strong, welcoming, and full of warmth. But it was not just the bench. Beside it was a small water shelter built from clay and wood, with a roof painted in bright, cheerful colors. Reds, yellows, and oranges reflected the setting sun, making the structure glow softly. The walls of the shelter were carefully carved with patterns of water flowing and leaves bending in the breeze. Inside the shelter, a clay pot of fresh water sat on a low stone table, ready for anyone who needed a drink. At the top of the shelter, a small plaque caught Amara's attention. In neatly carved letters it read, "In honor of Amara's kind heart." Amara's hands flew to her mouth as she stepped closer. She could not believe her eyes. She had never received a gift like this, never expected anyone to honor her kindness in such a public and meaningful way. Her eyes filled with tears, and her chest swelled with emotion. The villagers began to clap, their cheers rising into the soft evening air. Children jumped with joy, pointing at the bright shelter and the carved bench. Women and men smiled warmly, some whispering to each other, admiring the careful work that had gone into creating these gifts. Amara's heart filled with a mixture of surprise, happiness, and deep gratitude. Juma stepped forward and looked at her gently. "You saved my life," he said quietly. "You did not know me, but you helped me anyway. You gave water, comfort, and care when you could have walked away. That is why I wanted to give you something special, something the whole village can enjoy, to honor your kindness." Amara shook her head softly, feeling tears run down her cheeks. "Juma, this is too much. You didn't need to do this," she said softly, her voice trembling. He smiled gently. "I wanted to. You deserve it. Your heart is good and the world should see that." Amara stepped closer to the bench, running her hands along the smooth wood. She could feel the care in every curve and pattern. She looked at the shelter, touching the carved letters, the bright roof, and the clay pot inside. Everything had been made with thought, effort, and love. She realized how much time and energy Juma must have spent to create something so perfect and meaningful. Children gathered around, laughing and playing near the bench, their voices full of excitement. Some of them touched the carvings, asking questions about the colors and shapes. Adults nodded in approval, talking softly about how strong and thoughtful the construction was. Amara noticed how the villagers had worked together, helping Juma build and decorate, making this not only a gift from him but from the entire community. Her chest swelled with pride and gratitude. She felt a deep sense of connection to the village, to Juma, and to everyone who had contributed. It was not just a bench or a shelter, it was a symbol of care, unity, and kindness. Juma stood quietly beside her, watching her reaction. "I could not have done it alone," he said softly. "Everyone wanted to help. They wanted to show that your act of kindness is important, that helping someone matters." Amara's lips trembled as she tried to speak. I don't know what to say. "This is more than I could ever expect," she whispered. "You don't need to say anything," Juma replied. "Your actions already spoke for themselves." Amara looked around at the villagers. Everyone's eyes were kind, smiling at her in quiet pride. She realized that this moment, this gift, was not only about her, it was about showing how one small act of care could inspire many people to do good. The river, the faintest act of kindness, had rippled out to create something much larger than she could have imagined. She stepped closer to Juma, her voice soft but full of warmth. "Thank you, for everything. I never imagined this." He nodded quietly. "You do not need to imagine. You just need to know that what you did matters. Your kindness saved a life and inspired others. That is why it is remembered." The sun dipped lower and lanterns were lit around the square. The bench and the shelter glowed softly in the warm light. Children laughed and ran around, some sitting on the bench, pretending it was a stage for their games. Adults admired the shelter and water pot, talking quietly about how beautiful and useful it was. Amara stood nearby, feeling a sense of joy and peace she had never felt before. Juma reached out and gently touched her shoulder. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. "Your heart is strong, Amara. Never forget the power of kindness." Amara smiled through her tears. "I will not forget," she whispered. For a while they both stood quietly watching the villagers enjoy the gifts. The sounds of laughter, soft conversation, and the gentle flow of the river filled the evening. The square felt alive, full of warmth, care, and gratitude. The bench and shelter were more than wood and clay, they were symbols of kindness, of community, and of the connection between two people who had met by chance but whose lives had changed because of one simple act of care. Amara knew she would never forget this evening. She would remember the feeling of awe and gratitude, the look on Juma's face, and the quiet pride of the villagers who had joined in to honor her heart. She understood now that kindness could inspire others, that one small choice could lead to something wonderful and lasting. The stars began to appear in the sky, and a soft breeze rustled through the leaves of the trees. As the evening deepened and the warm glow of lanterns lit the town square, Juma stepped forward, his eyes meeting Amara's. The crowd had begun to settle, leaving a gentle quiet around the bench and the water shelter. Children still laughed softly nearby, but everyone else seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the words that would finish the story of this extraordinary surprise. "Amara," Juma said softly but clearly, "I want to thank you, truly. You saved my life and you did it without thinking twice. I could never repay you with words alone, but I wanted to show you how much it meant to me and to all of us." Amara felt her chest tighten. She had never expected this, never imagined that her simple act of helping someone in need would turn into something so meaningful. Her hands were still pressed lightly against her face from the surprise, her eyes glistening in the soft evening light. She had never received such a thoughtful and beautiful gift, and now, with Juma's sincere words, her heart was full. You didn't have to do all this," she whispered, her voice soft. "I was only helping. Anyone could have stopped." Juma shook his head gently. "Not everyone would. Not everyone would act with the heart you have. That is why this matters. Your kindness created more than just safety for me. It inspired all of us. That is why the villagers joined me. That is why this shelter and bench exist now. For you and for everyone who sees them." Amara looked around at the villagers who had helped, at the children laughing and pointing at the bench, at the adults who nodded with quiet pride. It all felt like a dream. Every detail, the bright roof of the shelter, the carved patterns, the smooth wooden bench, was a symbol of love, care, and effort. She realized that this gift was bigger than herself. It was a reflection of the connection between people, of how one small act of care could ripple through an entire community. Juma smiled gently, noticing her reaction. "I could not have done it alone," he said. "Everyone wanted to help. And I wanted you to see that your actions can inspire others. You showed that even one small choice to help can make a real difference." Amara's heart swelled. She stepped closer to the shelter, letting her fingers brush against the carved letters on the plaque. "In honor of Amara's kind heart, The words seemed to glow softly in the lantern light. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mixture of gratitude, amazement, and a little disbelief that something she had done without thought could have such a lasting impact. Juma continued quietly, his voice steady and kind. This bench, this shelter, they are for everyone in the village. But they are also a reminder of what you did. Your heart matters. Your care matters. And because of that, this village feels a little brighter tonight. Amara looked at him, trying to find the words. I don't know what to say. It's too much, too beautiful. I only helped because I could. That is exactly why it is meaningful, Juma replied. You acted from your heart, not for reward. That is why everyone wanted to honor you. That is why this feels right. For a few moments they stood quietly, watching the villagers move around the square, talking softly and admiring the shelter and bench. Children climbed carefully on the bench, laughing and pretending it was a stage. Adults discussed the patterns carved into the wood, the way the clay shelter had been shaped and painted. It all felt alive, as if the village itself had been touched by the kindness that had started this entire story. Amara realized that she had never experienced anything like this before. She had helped someone because it was right, not expecting anything in return, and now she saw that the effect of that small choice had grown into something tangible, something that everyone could see and enjoy. She understood now how powerful a single act of care could be. Juma looked at her again, a soft smile on his face. From now on, Amara, I hope we can work together. We can help others in the village, inspire kindness, and make sure that even small acts can create change. You have shown me how one person can make a difference. I hope we can share that with everyone. Amara nodded slowly, feeling a gentle sense of joy. I would like that, she said softly. I want to help others too. And I want to learn from you. Maybe together we can make a difference. Juma's eyes lit up slightly. Yes, he said quietly. Together we can. Over the next few weeks, Amara and Juma became close friends. They walked together through the village, checking on neighbors, helping repair small homes, carrying water for the elderly, and assisting children with their schoolwork. They organized small gatherings where the villagers could share knowledge, skills, and care. The bench and the water shelter became central to these activities. Children would sit on the bench to read or play, while the shelter provided cool water and a shaded place to rest. The villagers often remarked on how much brighter the square felt since the shelter had been built, and how the laughter of children and the peaceful presence of Amara and Juma seemed to add a new warmth to the village. Every time Amara passed the bench or the shelter, she thought of the day she had found Juma by the river. She remembered how weak and pale he had looked, how small and simple her act of giving him water had been, and how it had grown into this network of care and kindness for the whole village. The realization filled her with quiet wonder and happiness. Juma would often stand beside her, smiling gently. Do you see, he would say? Your heart started this. Your choice created this moment, this place. Every person who enjoys the shelter or rests on the bench is touched by your kindness. Amara would smile back, her hands lightly brushing the carved wood of the bench. She could feel the warmth of his words and she understood the truth in them. Kindness was not just a word, it was action, effort, and care. It could grow and spread quietly, touching lives in ways she had never imagined. The village continued to thrive. Visitors passing through would stop at the shelter to rest and marvel at the bench, commenting on the care and beauty of the work. Children would tell their parents the story of Amara saving Juma by the river, and how he had repaid her with a gift that everyone could enjoy. The story spread quietly, becoming part of the village's life, reminding everyone that small acts of kindness could ripple outward and inspire many. Amara felt a deep sense of peace. She had never expected anything in return for helping Juma. She had only acted out of care. Yet now she saw how one act could grow into something larger than herself. She understood that kindness could be both simple and powerful, quiet and yet visible in the world around her. Juma and Amara continued their work together, walking through the village, helping anyone in need, and teaching children the importance of caring for others. The bench became a place of learning and rest, and the water shelter was used every day by villagers and travelers alike. People often said that the square felt brighter and warmer because of the kindness and love behind the gifts.